Hello and welcome to Traffic Talks. My name is Pyro and I talk about what's going on in my life, usually with a lesson I've learned, some tips and tricks you can follow that helped me, and a lot of laughs in each episode. If this sounds like something you would enjoy hearing, feel free to follow the podcast, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and to see what I'm up to, you can check out my Instagram page linked below. Bye! Hello and welcome to Traffic Talks. My name is Pyro and I talk about what's going on in my life, usually with a lesson I've learned, some tips and tricks you can follow that helped me, and a lot of laughs in each episode. If this sounds like something you would enjoy hearing, feel free to follow the podcast, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and to see what I'm up to, you can check out my Instagram page linked below. Bye! Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I hope you are doing well. I have just had a very sudden realization that my intro to the podcast is indecently long. So I'm gonna need to definitely do something about that. Anyway, I wanted to add a mini update on what's been going on. I am recording this a few days in advance and life has not been going according to plan. So I had a plan to kind of just revamp my space. I was going to take some stuff and sort them out because I was going to apartment sit, and which is house sitting for an apartment in case you are unaware. And I was like, cool, I'm gonna go sort out my life and come back ready to attack the new month. And then life is like, spanner in the works. Boom. And now everything is not going according to that plan. So I was going to apartment sit. That didn't happen. I might go this coming weekend. I had plans to sort out a whole bunch of things. I have touched nothing. The only plan I did succeed in doing was going to Macro to buy my toothbrush, which I will pop a picture up when I eventually edit this and upload it to YouTube. But if you're listening to the podcast, eventually there'll be a picture of it on my Instagram. So that's the one. It is a Philips Sonicare toothbrush. I'm very excited. I was hunting for a new toothbrush and I found this one. This is not sponsored. It's just something that was on sale. I had been looking for one. It's got eco-friendly replaceable heads that you can off Take-A-Lot, which I'm excited for. So there's a lot going on. But I got that toothbrush and I'm very happy for it. But I didn't get as much done as I wanted to. I did dye my hair, which is getting brighter and blonder by the day, or rather by each time I dye it, and I'm loving it. Like every single time I look in the mirror, I smile because it's like I'm transforming into the person I want to be. And I think that is something that is kind of the crux of these two episodes, last week's lifestyle creep and this week's one, because this is kind of a positive side effect of lifestyle creep in action, as long as it's done correctly. So part of the update, by the way, I'm not done. I know I tangent, is that I tend to be very careful when I spend my money. Like I budget, I'm well aware of what I'm spending it on or what I'm intentionally buying for my life and for its betterment. And buying hair dye and doing it myself is one thing because I just get my sister to help me. But this past weekend I did it solo, alone, by myself, and I'm so happy with the result. You have no idea. I came to screech and scream and be like, look at my hair, to my sister, and she's like, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, thank you. I'm so proud of me too. Like, look at it. It looks so good. I did it myself. I followed the instructions. I colored it top to bottom. I'm just so happy. That aside, it's not the blonde. It's like almost a coppery, how do I even describe this? Like a coppery brown, but it's getting there. It's getting there. So I've got a plan in motion for how to dye it, but that is that. So life has not been going according to plan, but I think this is like the phrase I have been using in me and my life. And I can't remember even mentioning this in an episode, which how did I forget something so vital? But I said it to my friend and I was just reminded of it again today, that I would prefer to grow through my problems. Like not getting to things is a problem, but I'm growing through it and I'm learning through it. I'm just not going through it and moving on to the next thing. I'm growing through it. I'm learning the lesson in I need to be more organized. I need to have better routines in place. And I've been trying. I've upped certain routines and that's good, but others I've neglected and I need to work on them. So yeah, that is what has been going on. I've been looking at jobs. I sent out a few applications. I got rejected for those. So now I just need to broaden my scope, which I'm okay with. I'm happy to do that. And yeah, I'm excited to actually see where I'm going to keep growing to. See what I did there? Growing. Yeah, so that's me. On to the episode. So this week is part 2 of lifestyle creep, and today we are going to discuss the negative possibilities of lifestyle creep and how it can affect the future of your finances. And since it's also Women's Month, because August just started, there is this weird baseline that women have when it comes to minimum bar type of expectations. Like hair needs to be on point, makeup needs to be on point, clothes, shoes, nails. All of those things have a higher baseline than when it comes to men, yet women get paid less. They are expected to do household things more than men. And this is after having to work a full day's work, like a full day's job. And that to me is just disrespectful. So we're going to be speaking a little bit about that. And also, one thing I've also discovered that I will be speaking about is that I'm trying to do YouTube vlogging, which is more of just me recording my memories, and actually having a deadline forces me to look at it, upload it, edit it, see what I actually did and kind of take accountability for it. But I find myself going out of my way to do things which inadvertently causes me to spend money that I wouldn't normally spend, which I'm not really upset about, because everything good in moderation, everything bad in moderation. Like, moderation is the key. You need to know when to do what. So that's what we're going to touch on today. And I thought it was very, very important to kind of bring up the woman's aspect of it, because for Women's Month this year, the theme, and I kid you not, I googled it, this theme was determined last year in November, the 11th to be exact, of 2022. And for South Africa, the Women's Month theme is, and I quote, "Women's socio-economic rights and empowerment, building back better for women's improved resilience." Are you kidding me? It goes further to say, the concept of generation equality is a global campaign and links South Africa to global efforts to achieve gender equality by 2030. I have no words for how perfect this theme is, because we are in 2023. That is 7 years away from this goal. And yet we still see inequality in such obvious ways that I'm still shocked. Like, the difference is obvious and people are just like, we'll get there one day. I'm like, you have T-7 years. Like, can you just, fast forward a little? But yeah, that is the theme of this year's Women's Month. I've decided to theme each month and kind of touch a little bit on the theme in each week, and touching on the financial aspect a little bit in this one. I've got a full thing planned for later this month, but we'll get there in good time. Strap in. I know last week's one was an effort, but I got a feeling this week's episode is going to be a bit longer. So bear with me, grab a drink, and enjoy. So, on to the actual episode, which I think the previous section was like a lead up. Anywho, the negative sides of lifestyle creep. So if you haven't listened to last week's one, I highly recommend it. There are some very good points and a detailed explanation of what lifestyle creep is. But if you didn't and you want to keep listening, no problem. The basic point of lifestyle creep is that you suddenly have an increase either in income or a decrease in expenses, meaning you now have a lot more money to use at your disposal. A lot of things that happen around this time is that people spend this money frivolously because it's a continuous thing, and they tend to spend money on things that they normally would see as a luxury buy or once in a while buy. Things that they see as wants now become seen as needs, and their cost at a basic level each month is now significantly higher. That is essentially what lifestyle creep is. So one of the things that lifestyle creep is really negative about is if there is a change in your income each month. For example, you are retrenched, you retire, you get fired, you suddenly now have zero money or a whole lot less coming in each month, you now are going to have a whole lot of problems. And this is because the lifestyle creep really did, as it says on the tin, it snuck up on you and you didn't realize that these small changes affected your accounts in such a big way. Small things like buying an extra drink with your meal when you normally would just have one drink in a meal. Things like buying an expensive bag when you don't need it, but just because it was on sale and it looks good. Or, and this is one I really try to not do, is when there's a new gadget out or there's a gimmicky appliance and you just like, I need this in my life. And you use it for about a month or two and then you box it up, you let it become a white elephant and it just gathers dust for the rest of eternity. Those types of things add up real quick. And this is because A, you've either not budgeted for it properly when you purchased it and somehow incurred recurring costs, like putting it on a credit card, or you haven't properly researched it, which is another thing. But that's a whole other problem. Small things like these add up over time and they eat into other parts of your budget. So if you haven't budgeted, you're running up debt, which runs up interest, which costs you more for something you didn't have to spend that much money on. Or if you had simply just not had the extra drink with your meal, you could have kept that money and used it somewhere else or even just padded your savings a little bit more. That is understandable, that is normal, but if you catch it early, you can fix the problem. So a drastic change in your income is very problematic, especially if you've experienced lifestyle creep over a long period of time, where you now have become accustomed to a certain lifestyle. One of the things that actually make this easier is having a large amount of credit available to you, whether this is credit cards, whether this is store cards, whether this is having saved up a lot of money and seeing it like, ooh, I've saved it, I can spend it whenever I want. This definitely contributes to lifestyle creep. And not gonna lie, budgeting and willpower can be leveraged to avoid these types of things, but it's gonna need a bit of work. You are gonna need to reflect on what you've been doing. You're going to need to acknowledge what you've been spending your money on. And once you actually track your spending and look how you have spent, you'll be able to figure that out real quick. For example, if you maybe have a fight with someone and on that day you realized, oh, I overspent on my budget. Why? You had a fight with someone. That triggers you. Then you go do some retail therapy. That is good knowledge to know because this allows you to actually help yourself with a whole bunch of other things like putting up boundaries, learning to deal with stress. That's a whole other thing. The thing is, you can learn how to spend so that you don't overspend, or you can spend within your budget. One tip I always see is that if you're buying something online, put it in your cart, but then wait 24 hours to see if you still want that thing. Because in this era of social media, we are fed so many ads, whether it's a YouTube, whether it's like this a podcast, whether it's even just scrolling on Instagram, ads pop out at you all the time and you're just like, ooh, I need that, I want that, and then you go and buy it. Did you really need to do that? No. Can you even actually afford that in the first place? Or are you actually going to put on a credit card? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Can you actually afford this thing? And I was watching Espresso morning show. I'll see if I can link the YouTube version of the episode. It's a clip, it's about 7 minutes, where they actually talk about budgeting. And one of the things I remember, I'm not sure if it's from that episode or somewhere else, but they said if you can't afford to buy it twice, you can't afford to buy it once. And that's to say, you need to make sure you have enough money to buy this thing and not use credit. And that's how you know you can afford it. Because buying things where you've got a 20% interest, 15, 30%, however much it is, it's a lot. It's unnecessary. And if you can get an interest-free card for a certain amount of time and make sure you pay it without the interest, you will be better off. So that is my rant on just understanding what you are working with budget-wise. I think reflecting on how you spend and what you spend on is going to be crucial. And I know I need to harshly look over my budget because I have goals that I'm working on and I need to achieve them real quick. So that is just me. I found a few examples on the article I used last week as a reference. I will link it again. But the article states that they are negative, and I wanted to emphasize negative lifestyle creep, because I firmly believe that lifestyle creep can be okay if you are being smart about it. If you are budgeting, if you are spending correctly, if you are leaving some wiggle room in your budget that you can buy a nice thing here or there, you can upgrade certain things in your life, buy them consistently each month or each second month or each third month as you go through your life. Because there's a difference between, like I said last week, lifestyle creep and upgrading your quality of life. So just wanted to make sure that was well understood. I always say I'm looking at this from a perspective of budgeting properly and spending with intention. And some of these negative examples are ones I can see and I can understand, but I'll get into that in a moment. So if you're being smart, buying these things once off or having it be part of a set budget for a reason, I can understand it. But if it's frivolous for no good reason, I can't accept that. So the examples used in the episode are as follows. I'm going to paraphrase these, but it's basically spending money on coffees or drinks frivolously, flying first class rather than your normal coach or economy or whatever the cheaper flight is, eating out more frequently, and then also eating out more expensively, like I mentioned earlier, an extra glass of wine or an extra drink, or taking away a meal when you don't need to. Another thing they mention here is expensive clothing, and more of it when less expensive clothing will suffice. Paying for housekeeping, buying or renting more house than you need, like a second home or a larger home when you aren't that many people or you just one person. Then, and this was a funny one, a third car, a boat, or replacing a car sooner than you need to. So those were the examples. And as I said, not all of these are bad, because in last week's episode, I did explain that some of these things can be good, like with flying. And two from this list in particular I wanted to mention. First was flying and second was housekeeping. The rest I have addressed some way or other, especially in last week's episode, with the clothing one and the eating one. So go listen to that if you haven't. But with regards to the flying, if you have been planning for a trip, you've been budgeting for it, you've been saving for it, and you are able to buy your flights in advance, meaning you get to pay cheaper price for the same ticket to the same place, by all means, go for the first class and enjoy it. Why? You have been saving, you have been planning, the money's already there, you aren't going to put it through a credit card. It's fine. I know an aunt of mine is traveling and she's paying almost 40,000 Rand for a ticket. That's one way. She still needs to pay for another ticket back. Whereas other people who are also going with her got their tickets earlier and they're only paying about 20,000 per flight up and down, which is half. So by all means, if you can book it well enough in advance to get literally 50% off of the price, go for it. But if you cannot afford it and you need to use a credit card, which, as I said, high interest rates that are completely unnecessary, then maybe you need to look at the cheapest option available to you, because that is a definite no-no. Or if it was a fun trip, find another time of year to do it so you can save up for it and put the rest on a credit card, or maybe cut back on some expenses and actually save up for it cash. If it's something that does have a deadline, like someone's wedding, that's a destination. But honestly, you don't need to be spending that much money on flights. Look, I love flying. I love it to death. But it's not worth spending that much money on it. Number 2, the housekeeping. I've had this discussion with a friend of mine. Housekeeping is a basic skill that each and every person needs to learn to do for themselves. You need to know how to take care of yourself and take care of your home. Thereafter, if you can practically afford to hire someone and not break your bank, perfectly cool. But if you have a small enough space and you are just too lazy to clean it and keep it clean, then I think you need to just rethink your lifestyle and your privilege. First lifestyle and then privilege. Because if you're so busy you don't have time to clean your house, you need to reassess. Like if you're flying for work, it's understandable because you literally aren't there to make dirt but also not to clean dirt. But if you are at home and you just don't want to clean, you may have some issues that need to be therapized. And also check your privilege, because sometimes we don't do that enough. And another word I think people love to throw around is gratitude. You need to be grateful for what you got, but you also need to understand how privileged you are in situations, because not a lot of people can afford to have their own place. Not a lot of people can afford to move out from their home. Not a lot of people can afford things. So check yourself, check your privilege, and move on with your life. So we've mentioned earlier that people who lose their job, get retired, get retrenched, they experience it. But the people who are near retirement tend to have a much harder time entering retirement. And it can be very problematic because people who are about 5 to 10 years before retirement are basically in their peak earning years. Any amounts of money that they needed to use consistently to pay off things like a bond, like their child's expensive university fees, or any cause or long-term expenses that are recurring each month, those types of things, those are no longer there. So they do experience lifestyle creep in terms of having much more money to play with because they've paid off their bond, they've paid off their car, their child's school fees and university fees are done. They don't have that. And with their new monies, they might opt for going on that more expensive vacation, buying a second home so that they can retire to that one and get the first one gone. They might decide, you know what, I can now start to afford buying fancier clothes and bags and accessories and things, going on more expensive vacations, whereas they used to keep it local, now they're going international, things like that. And the goal of retirement is to maintain the lifestyle you've become accustomed to in the years prior. But if you think about it, if you suddenly have an increase in your lifestyle spending and this lifestyle creep that's hit you, you now have a lavish lifestyle that is obviously not going to be accounted for in your retirement. Instead of saving your extra money so that you can be comfortable for retirement, you've wasted it. And this is the problem I have, because you kind of forget how long you're going to live and what you're going to do when you get there, which is why people always stress having multiple streams of income, especially a passive income, because you don't want to strain yourself in your older years. You want a way of making money that's not going to cause you, physical injury, potentially, if you have to do it yourself. For example, a car wash. You don't want to be old and have a bad back and have to clean a car. You want to be having someone else run the place and just come collect your profits every month. That is what you need. So finding ways to make money so that when you retire, you don't have to work as hard, and also finding a way to make sure you are saving any excess money in your peak earning years for your retirement is going to be a very good idea for you. So not only can lifestyle creep affect the people entering retirement age, and especially hit people pre-retirement when they are at their peak in terms of earning, it can also hit people on the opposite end of the spectrum, as in youngsters just entering their income earning phase of their life. So they've maybe just recently graduated or have completed their internships and are finally in a position where they have a bit more disposable income and are getting a good pay each month. Habits can quickly become bad spending habits instead of good saving habits, and this is because they now are able to afford things that, as exactly lifestyle creep is, used to be luxuries but is now becoming needs instead of wants. And
this can be bad, especially if you earn a high amount at a young age and you don't put money away for things like your first home, for retirement, working towards paying off any debt from education or things that you might have bought, like a car, because you need to travel to work. And the thing with this is youngsters can fall into a spending trap, which is obviously detrimental. And the way that you can easily avoid this is simply just writing down what you want in terms of your financial goals and using that as a guide to determine, do I want to spend my money on this, or do I want to save up for goal A, goal B, goal C, and put money towards that each month. One thing I always think about this and how it relates to me is that I've done certain things that may seem a bit dumb. Like the most basic example I can give is liquid hand soap. I have changed over in recent months from a bar of soap to liquid hand soap that I have in a little dispenser, and I just buy the liquid refill packs from Clicks. I buy them when they're on special. I buy 3 for 2 and I just refill as needed. And this is a lifestyle creep habit I do not regret and never will. And if push does come to shove and I end up in a financial situation where I have to cut back, I can do so in a heartbeat and just use cheaper bar soap to wash my hands with. But it's not the end of the earth, and it's not going to break my bank at the end of the day. And I'm okay with that. On the other hand, for someone who is not willing to go back, this is going to be a problem. If they get retrenched or they get fired and they have to find a new job and they still think that they can buy the hand soap, they can have a problem. There's nothing wrong with having to readjust because something happened that you cannot predict and cannot plan for, because getting fired is not on you unless, you've done something bad that warrants it. But there are times where it's just like, you know what? There's cutbacks. Companies can't afford people, especially with load shedding. People are getting retrenched. All those types of things. And if you don't have a backup plan, you are going to suffer. But also if you aren't budgeting in a way that if something like this hits, you need to be able to cut your salary in half. You need to have an emergency fund that will be able to carry you for the next few months until you can find something, and possibly beyond that, so that you can refill your emergency savings. And that's something I always emphasize having. Another example, just to re-emphasize this point, is that I recently wrote down and pondered on the life goals that I want in terms of money. And I basically reworked it from, this is the end goal that I want, this is how I can reverse engineer it, this is what it breaks down to each month. And I'm just like, this seems very doable. Let's see how we can work with this. And I've been sticking to it. I've reworked my budget. I've upped my savings. And I actually had a little bit of extra money to spend end of July. And I actually asked my sister, because I love her answers. They are always very, very interesting. And I said to her, look, I got a little bit of extra money. I've paid off all my debts. I've put all my money in my savings as I usually do. I've done everything. Like, what do I spend my money on? Like, what do I spend this spare cash on? And she's like, here's what you do. Whatever you want to buy, because I know you have a list, prioritize the list of the most important thing to the least important or the most urgent, and then put money towards each of those things, and then put some money in savings, and then keep some money for yourself for just having fun with. And I'm just like, your perspective always surprises me, and I love it. And I took that advice. I put money towards savings. I put money towards this toothbrush that I wanted, because it was a pretty penny, but I'm never going to regret it, because all I have to do is keep replacing the heads of the toothbrush, which is not too expensive, especially if you buy it in a bulk pack. It lasts a literal year. But no regrets. I was able to buy the toothbrush outright, put money in my savings for both my future home, my emergency fund, and my Black Friday fund, because there are a couple things I want to buy. That aside, the point that I'm trying to underline, highlight, and exclamation point is that having these goals set helped me put extra money away towards them. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that is so true, especially when it comes to finances. It's so easy to make a bad financial decision that can ruin you. In trying to vlog, I realized that I am trying to vlog to remember my life and my memories that I'm making mainly for myself, because I've realized I forget things that happen. I forget to take pictures. I forget to take videos. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that month. I forgot I went there. I forgot I did that. And that's not fun. You want to look back on your life and remember it. You want them to be vivid. And if I don't have a deadline, for example, the end of the month, so that I can upload the new vlog the following month, I'm never going to get to it. I'm never going to go through my old photos, delete the crappy ones, edit and fix the lighting in the good ones. None of that. So I was trying to make things exciting, and I'm just like, my life is fine as it is, but I just want to remember the fun parts that I enjoy. And that's why I'm vlogging. I don't need to go and spend money unnecessarily. And that's something that shocked me. Because I'm not doing it for anyone else but myself. We don't need, in general, to spend money to show off to other people. It's this saying that I was reminded of, which I retold to my mom, which is, money talks, wealth whispers. And that I thought was very powerful. Like, you don't need to flaunt your money. Some of the wealthiest people are the ones you wouldn't even say are like rich or have money, because they live very simple lives. And I think that is the thing that people underestimate, especially when it comes to women, because a lot of times women judge other women, especially based on their appearance. Yet the bar is so low in terms of equality when it comes to men versus women. Men can have, and this is no disrespect, men can have full-blown beards, their hair can be a bit long, their nails can be untrimmed, and they've never heard of the word moisturize on their face, yet that is perfectly acceptable. And then one hair is out of place on a woman and it's the end of the earth. I mean, that is just not fair. When you compare the wage gap, it is unruly. And the fact that women have to pay pink tax on basic things just to maintain a standard that is unrealistic is disrespectful on each and every level. So I don't like that. When it comes to lifestyle creep, there's a certain understanding that you can upgrade your life or you can give into lifestyle creep. People skirt the lines a lot, but when it comes to women especially, it can be a bit more harsh, because sometimes it's not lifestyle creep, it's not an upgrade, it's just trying to keep a basic level that is needed for their life, regardless of other people. There needs to be some sort of maintenance, and I don't like that. I don't like subscribing to societal norms that I find to be completely unfair. And I know life is not fair, I get that, but I'm saying don't try and make it an even worse playing field just because someone's a woman. I don't like that. And in terms of equality, as relating to the Women's Month theme, the fact that for generations there has been inequality and people still don't understand that when a woman asks for a fair wage, it is not trying their luck. It is not trying to be seen as, oh, I've been working extra, I deserve extra. No, I'm just trying to get to a base level that the men are because I'm doing the exact same thing. Why am I being paid less? That is the thing of it. And This is something that just happened recently to someone I know. They asked for a raise and ended up getting retrenched, which I still cannot wrap my head around. But it happened. And all she was asking for was a little extra money, and she was willing to put in extra work as needed for that salary jump, which wasn't much. And she got retrenched. So the fact that these things are still happening in this day and age is beyond me. But that's all to say, lifestyle creep can be negative. It absolutely can. And with people trying to flex and show off on social media, it's being so overused that I'm just surprised people actually still fall for it. I personally don't subscribe to that way of living because I want what I want, but not to show off, not to impress other people. I want it for me. Like, the only reason I want something is because I genuinely want it for me in my life. I don't do it for the flex. I don't do it for the gram. I don't do it to show off. There are things I have that other people don't even know about. And that's because I don't care to show off to other people. I just do what I want for me. And it's going to improve my life in some way. Yes, there is a bit of a luxe element to it, if you want to call it that. But it's because I've basically done my research on something and planned for it. And that is something I mentioned earlier. Planning and budgeting for something is extremely important, but doing your research beforehand is even more important. I know for a fact, before I bought my phone last year, I had been doing research on phones for about a year and a half prior to that, to the point I went and bought an audio jack adapter because I knew my phone didn't have an audio jack, or at least I wanted the phone that I have and I knew it wouldn't come with an audio jack. So I bought the adapter beforehand. I knew the phone had wireless charging capabilities and I didn't have a wireless charger. So when Typo had a sale, I bought it. Not having the phone yet, not having any phone that worked with it yet. But that's that. I knew what I wanted. I did my research. I had been saving up for it. So when everything fell into place, boom, I could do it. And it worked out. And I got bonuses, I got pluses, I got all the extras that I just never even thought I would. I just knew, okay, cool, I'm buying a phone, and I got so much more with it. But that's because I did my research, I planned, and I'm making the most of every single thing that I have. To wrap up this episode, working hard and taking things step by step is usually the best option, and slowly upgrading your life is fine. Slowly giving into that lifestyle creep is absolutely fine. But burning through your money to show off for people who don't even care or who don't even know you because they're just a screen name on Instagram is absolutely pointless. There's no benefit to it. Absolutely none. Why would you do that? You actually make yourself a target now that I think about it. So just don't do it. If you are going to upgrade yourself, do it for you, and don't do it because you saw someone else do it. Like, you have no idea if that person's lifestyle is going to make you feel the same way you feel watching that person's lifestyle. Case in point, I was watching Pinterest videos on restocking things. So you get fridge restocks and you get makeup drawers and just anything and everything that needs refilling and restocking, from toilet rolls to guest bathrooms to guest rooms to snacks, fridges, pantries, soap containers, anything and everything. I was watching it and I absolutely loved it. And then one day, there was a woman who was refilling her mini makeup fridge with face masks, and she opened like 3 different drawers, and in those drawers were different types of masks. So some were like eye masks, some were those T-zone patches, some were full face masks. You name it, she had it, and she picked them out from drawers that were stuffed with these masks. Maybe three and a half drawers, and put them in this fridge. And I called my sister, showed her the video, and asked her, how does this woman afford all these masks? Like, they literally just laying in a drawer. My sister looks at me and deadpan tells me, that is not your problem. And I'm just like, I love this. I love you. I love when I ask you questions and I get these answers. Because for me, I care about other people, and I sometimes find it hard not to be that voice in the back of your mind that's like, is this really a good idea? And once again, thanks to my sister, I needed to be reminded that what other people choose to do or buy or overstock in their house is exactly their business, and to not worry, but rather worry about my life and the people in my life. So the point of the story is that don't judge other people's lives. Don't try and chase the feeling you get watching other people's lives. Try and find what you want in your own life. Like, seeing them live their best life is good, but don't be like, I need to go on that foreign vacation in order to feel like that. No, you need to find a vacation you like to make yourself feel happy with yourself. Because you might see someone on a beach and be like, I don't even like sand, but that's what I need to do. Now I need to go suffer through sand. Who needs it in their life? No one. That's who. So don't do that. Find your own happiness. That's what I wanted to say. That is the end of this episode. And the song of the week, because it's part 2, is a remix of last week's song. So the song is obviously All the Way Up by Fat Joe and Remy Ma, but the remix version has Jay-Z in it. So I'm gonna link that, you go listen to it, and you just enjoy listening to it, because you won't regret it. So yeah, that is it for me. I wish you a very happy rest of the week. Yeah, that's about it. I do think I want to just continue August and getting the podcasts up. So a note for the podcasts is probably what the section will be about. I am going to revamp my Instagram maybe this month of August, and then start uploading to YouTube September. And I hope I'm not going to keep pushing that date out, because the reason I did it is I realized I have 120 something episodes at the moment. However, the actual total is in the 200s. So I need to go and just recalibrate and figure out what's going on, and then start editing and uploading those. But yeah, that is what I'm gonna do. And that's it from me. I'll see you in next week's episode. And remember to keep being a better being. For yourself, not for anyone else. Love you. Bye.